Let's go for it.
A very good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you once again for joining day 3 of our student webinar training. If you missed us for the past 2 days, don't be too left out. I will actually tell you how you can secure the recordings from the previous 2 days as well. Now, as you know, part of this training is to address the digital competencies that you need to transition to an online teaching and learning environment. And over the past 2 days, we've tackled issues relating to the Unisa, the My Exams platform, the different types of assessments that you will engage, as well as yesterday we had a critical conversation around the proctoring apps that will be used at Unisa. So part of these sessions, which we have in Articator, more specifically for those of you that are at home, that have the time to engage with us during the day. But you will also notice as part of our training program that we did something different this year. We actually catering for those that are also part of the working class. So if you missed out some, please feel free to join us next week as we have the same sessions repeated, but more towards the afternoon sessions. So you're welcome to join the sessions as well. In today's session, ladies and gentlemen, students, we will use the same procedure as we used for the past 2 days. So please feel free. On your tab, on your computer or on your phone, you'll find a question tab right at the top. And that is the question space that you will use to post your comments, post your questions. And we have in the background a dedicated group of experts that are waiting to answer your questions and respond to you. So please use that to communicate with us as we start engaging in today's session. Also, a quick note of appreciation to all our EDOV colleagues and the colleagues from SRU that are joining us today to provide the support, as well as our producer in the background, David. Thank you very much for your support today. So, colleagues, today we will tackle 2 important issues, issues that have often been marginalized at Unisa when we talk about assessments, but it gives us an opportunity to engage this more critically so that it provides the kind of information that you need as you start engaging in the online assessment space. And the very first speaker today I have the privilege of welcoming to the floor is none other than Jessica Nell. And Jessica has actually won the Unisa Excellence in Tuition Award for Student Support in 2019. She also embraces new technologies and methods for teaching in e-learning environment. And in her 12 years of higher education experience, she has assisted many students with their managerial and decision-making capabilities, and also broadening their horizons to look at the potential considerations of how this actually unfolds in a global scope. Today, it's my pleasure to welcome Jessica, who will talk to us about academic integrity. Yes, you heard me right. Academic integrity in online assessment space. Welcome, Jessica. Thank you for taking the time for joining us today and also sharing your expert knowledge with the students and drawing from your academic background as well. I now hand over the platform to you, Jessica, as you take our students through the next session on academic integrity in online assessments. Thanks, Jessica.
Thank you, Denzel. It's wonderful to be here, and I'm looking forward to just acquainting our students with what academic integrity is, how to avoid it, and really how to protect the value of your degree. So, what exactly is academic integrity? We define it as a commitment by academics, administrators, and students to demonstrate honest moral behavior in their academic lives. And this is even when no one is watching or you think you might not get caught. It's something that all universities expect of students without necessarily telling them exactly what it is and why you should practice it. It's what we call implicit knowledge, something that we pick up from university as we proceed through the years in our studies. It's the right way to think, to speak, to look and behave as an academic. So this embedded knowledge is based around 6 fundamental values. Honesty begins with individuals, and it extends out into the larger community. As students seek knowledge and learn, they must be honest with themselves and with each other. Whether you seek knowledge by yourself or from your lecturer or with your peers, practicing honesty lays a foundation for lifelong integrity. Trust is a two-way street. Being worthy of others' trust and allowing yourself to trust others goes hand in hand. Students promote trust by preparing work that is honest and thoughtful and genuine. Your lecturers, on the other hand, promote trust by setting clear guidelines for assignments and for evaluating your work fairly and in a good turnaround time. Which leads us to fairness. Treating others impartially is an essential part of creating ethical communities. Impartiality and objectivity reinforces the importance of truth and ideas, logic and rationality. Students engage in fairness by doing their own original work and acknowledging borrowed work appropriately through referencing, and they're respecting and upholding the academic integrity policies of the university and maintaining its good reputation. Like trust, respect in academic communities is two-way, and it requires showing respect for yourself and for others. Respect for self means tackling challenges without compromising your own values. Respect for others means valuing the diversity of opinions and appreciating the need to challenge, test, and refine your ideas. Being responsible means standing up against wrongdoing, resisting negative peer pressure, and serving as a positive example. Responsible people will hold themselves accountable for their own actions and work to discourage and prevent misconduct by others. Lastly, being courageous. It means acting in line with your convictions. Like intellectual capacity, courage can only develop in environments where it is tested. Students who show courage will hold themselves and their fellow learners accountable to the highest standards of academic integrity, even if it means a negative consequence, such as a bad grade or even, payback from your peers. So what do all these values mean in the real world? Well, on a personal level, acting with academic integrity shows you're an ethical person and that you have ethical values. These are valuable characteristics that employers are looking for. And the reverse is also true. Students that act in a dishonest way in their studies also act dishonestly in their workplaces. So if you're caught cheating at university, it could have serious consequences on your ability to get or keep a job. Not only that, but think how it impacts on your own self-concept. If you cheat, you don't build confidence in yourself and your own abilities. And if a student chooses to take a path of dishonesty, even what seems like a small thing, like sharing or helping another student with an answer, this individual action is going to filter up to an institutional level. Students that cheat give the university that they come from and the qualifications that they earn a very bad reputation. Employers and other universities may choose not to hire these graduates or accept students from that university because they don't trust that these graduates have the knowledge, the skills, and the attitudes associated with that degree. Quality assurance bodies like the Council of Higher Education in South Africa and professional associations like the South African Institute of Chartered Accountants, they might decide that the degrees from our university are not of an acceptable quality, and then they de-accredit the degrees. The result, even students that don't cheat during their studies are in danger of having their degrees devalued because the university as a whole is devalued. Everyone loses. So what might seem like a small action, like working as a group to answer an assignment, has a much bigger impact for yourself, for others, and the university. It's what we call the domino effect. So to protect you and your fellow students and Unisa from the impacts of academic dishonesty, we have 3 very important policies that all students need to familiarize themselves with and keep to. The first policy you should check is the Unisa rules for students. These are general rules that set out how the university works, including things like your applications and your registrations, supplementary exams and deferments and so on. So students should always start by consulting the rules to know the general processes and the way that things work at the university. Another policy we have is the policy for copyright infringement and plagiarism. And this policy deals with copyright infringement, which is when someone copies work that someone else made without that person's permission. It'll be sharing a textbook through a Telegram group. So you are effectively interfering with the publisher in that case. And this policy will spell out also plagiarism, which is where you take someone else's ideas and words without giving them acknowledgement. So this policy highlights how these transgressions are dealt with, and these are dealt with in line with the next policy, the Student Disciplinary Code. This code sets out what a student can and can't do at university, and the rules are aimed at upholding our name and reputation, maintaining order, discipline, safety and security for our students, ensuring the academic integrity of our processes and the quality of our qualifications. Now that's all well and good, but I still haven't given you some examples of what is academic dishonesty. There are many forms it can take. Let's start with contract cheating or ghostwriting. So some dishonest people out there are going to attempt to sell you the answers for assignments and exams, either in person, through social media, like messaging services like Telegram and WhatsApp, or through websites that claim to offer assignment answers. And this is called contract cheating or ghostwriting. These people or services will get the assignment questions or exams from students at your university. They will work out the answers and then offer these for sale. Students might be tempted to buy these answers because they think that they will do better and achieve higher marks, or because maybe they're feeling overwhelmed and they haven't prepared or studied for the assignment or exam. These people may even give students tips to try and fool the lecturers, like changing the order of the answers or making deliberate mistakes. But you know what also happens, and I've seen this myself, is the sellers are going to sell the same answer script to more than one student. And the result is there's always a few students who don't make any changes, and from these, the rest are found out. There's even times where a student doesn't remove the instructions to change a sentence or a word. So students who do this are then not only guilty of cheating by buying the script, but they're also guilty of plagiarism because they haven't acknowledged where they got the answer from. So you're getting double whammy right there. What's more, a student who cheats like this is not doing the work themselves, and they will not have the expected knowledge or skills that's expected of them. So engaging in this type of academic dishonesty means that they will have cheated not only their fellow students in the university, but they're also going to have cheated themselves. Ultimately, students need to avoid contract cheating and not be tempted to buy these answers. You need to bury yourself even more firmly in those 6 academic values. Be honest and be courageous. Advocate to your fellow students not to cheat in this way. And if you become aware of someone offering to sell you answers, just say no. You can alert your lecturer, or you can contact the whistleblower hotline with any information like the name, the module code, and any contact information you have. If you're on Telegram or WhatsApp and someone mentions it there, you can just tell whoever it is that what they're doing is wrong and that they are jeopardizing your degree and everyone else's. Linked to contract cheating, of course, is the buying or selling of an exam paper or assessment. So in order for these ghostwriters to come up with the answers to the exams, they first need to get access to these papers. So it's a very, very serious offence to buy or sell a question paper, whether it's online or venue-based. Both selling and buying of an exam paper is cheating, and the university is going to take very serious action against any person accused of this. We have another form of contract cheating as well. It's where you pay another person to write an exam on your behalf. In this case, you're not buying the answer to an assignment or exam, but paying or asking someone to do it for you in real time. Now that person is going to present themselves online with your credentials, or perhaps at a practical venue pretending to be you. This is identity misrepresentation, and it's a serious offence because you're not the one to take the assignment or exam. The best way to avoid it is just don't do it once again. Getting caught can mean a very long suspension from the university. And once again, you're the one who loses because you've not learned the skills and the knowledge that's expected of you. You also have absolutely no guarantee that the person taking the exam for you is even going to pass it. So you run the risk of failing in any case. Now, this one is one of the more common examples that we find. It's where we see students forming study groups to support each other through the degrees. And these groups are a wonderful, wonderful resource for our students. They give you both study and emotional support, and we encourage them. It's a good practice under most circumstances, but there's boundaries that can sometimes be crossed. So instead of offering support, these groups end up helping each other to cheat. So what sometimes might seem an innocent request, someone is struggling with an answer and they ask for help from the group, and someone else thinking that they're helping their friend gives them the answer, we're now seeing a twofold problem. In an exam situation, it means that both the asker and the answerer have both broken the rules of the exams. They've both cheated. So even the person who did the work themselves is now going to receive a 0 or face disciplinary action. Even in non-exam situations, sharing answers is not the best idea. What happens is the asker, once again, doesn't learn how to solve the problem, and they prevent their own learning experience. So sitting together and working together as a group to answer questions is most certainly not allowed during an exam. And in the workplace, I want you to think of this. You need to be able to quickly know how to address problems, or at least what direction you need to take. So yeah, like a study group, you might have a team around you, but unlike your study group, you're the one that team is looking to. And if you don't know what to do, you're the one who's supposed to give them direction and contribute meaningfully to the group as an individual with the knowledge of your qualification. If you don't know how to do this, you are not going to be a very good employee or an owner of a business. So the best way to avoid sharing answers in these groups is to make very, very clear rules among your study group, or even in your messaging service groups like Telegram. People in these groups might not intend to cheat. They're just trying to help a fellow student and a friend, and we all want to be helpful. But in the end, it goes very much against the values of academic integrity, and it cheapens your studies. So when you're in a study group, please act with that trust and that honesty, even if it's a friend asking for help. Now, we see this less frequently. Sometimes it feels like that period between when you registered and when it's the exams just goes much, much too quickly. And before you know it, you have an exam happening the next day. You might not have been working consistently throughout the semester, and you might be feeling very unprepared. And some students then go and get a letter from the doctor to miss the exam, or they buy one from a fake doctor. And this is illegal. Not only is it against our policies, but it is against law. So you can avoid feeling stressed by making sure that you're working throughout the semester, and rather than trying to do a burst of work at the end. Furthermore, make sure that you don't take too many modules in one semester. So I'm foreseeing we might see an uptake in this because so many of you are under a lot of stress with this super semester and having to write so many modules over a shorter period of time. Try to pace yourselves as much as possible. Now, in the online exam environment, we're seeing connectivity and file submission issues. We do know that sometimes things can go wrong during the exams. Your connectivity drops, or for some reason the electricity is cut. It's your responsibility to try and make sure that you plan for some of these eventualities. You need to be aware of the load shedding schedule, for example. If you work on a laptop, make sure that the battery is charged before the exam. Have a backup place you can go to where you know they are in a different schedule, or maybe it's a coffee shop if it has to be, and then you can just get permission from your lecturer and alert them. So we're aware of these unexpected events, and we have a process in place for you to apply for an aggregat for these unforeseen events, but you're going to need to have proof, be it your schedule or along those lines. Because if you lie about experiencing a loss of connectivity or electricity, you're actually cheating and you are transgressing our student disciplinary code because you are misleading the university. The university will be able to check load shedding schedules. So they will also be able to verify power cuts with the municipality, and with internet service providers, they can check if there was a service interruption. Now, similarly, if you submit an incorrect file or an improperly scanned file on purpose, this is also attempting to mislead the lecturer, and it is cheating. So you have to be very, very careful that you submit the correct file. I would advise that you have only one folder, you have a folder specifically for your exam script, and you only load that exam script in that folder. So there's no chance you can submit the wrong file. Because if you submit the wrong file or it is a corrupt file, you forfeit that exam opportunities and you're going to have to re-register and write the next exam. In some subjects, you are asked to report on a practical or work integrated experience. This is like doing a practical at school. Now, if you falsify part or all of that report, or if you forge someone's signature, if they had to sign off on the report, to make it look like that you completed the work, this is a very serious offence. If you forged someone's signature, they can lay a criminal case against you because it's fraud. Now, one instance of academic dishonesty that we see it very, very frequently with our students is plagiarism. And this might not be because you're doing it intentionally. It's more a matter of you need to practice the skills to prevent plagiarism. We have an excellent Mooc. It's the Academic Integrity Mooc. So if you register on our Mooc site, you can look for the code UOL018. It provides a definition for plagiarism for you, and it gives you tools on how to avoid it. So please go and register for that if you have a chance. Because plagiarism is when you use someone else's ideas and you don't acknowledge them. Put differently, when you pass someone else's ideas as your own. It boils down to cheating. If you're plagiarizing, you're basically guilty of stealing. You commit plagiarism if you use someone else's work, like academic text, websites, even art, without crediting the source. If you present as your own idea, their idea, that is a type of literary theft. Words are a form of expression of those people's original ideas. So you are taking their property. It's also seen as an act of fraud because it involves stealing someone else's work and lying about it by pretending that it's your own. So this can happen with text, imagery, music, videos, anything that you haven't produced yourself. Most cases of plagiarism can be avoided by being very, very careful to give proper citation of the sources. You need to acknowledge the source both in the text and in a list of references at the end. It's also called a bibliography. The only exception to referencing your sources is when you talk about common knowledge, like the sky is blue. That doesn't need to be cited. So just remember that in every college or whatever degree you're studying, there are some areas that are common knowledge and some that aren't. You need to check because it differs from course to course. Lastly, and this is now arising because of our own processes, using that extra hour to write your exam. Some exams, the essay exams and your portfolio exams, sometimes have an extra hour for students to scan and upload their answer scripts. This hour is not part of your writing time. The official writing time is indicated on your exam timetable. If your exam is scheduled for 2 hours, that means you have 2 hours to write the exam. The hour uploading time is there for when you are finished and you need to stop writing and save your file or scan and submit your file. You need to alert the lecturers during this time if you experience any issues. We have to be made aware of these problems in those first minutes after the exam is complete so that we can work to help you successfully submit the exam. So if you choose to ignore this rule and you continue to write during that upload time, you might miss your time frame to submit and you're going to forfeit your exam opportunity. The university doesn't under any circumstances accept your script outside of the upload time. Our systems can log when students enter the system to upload, so we can verify if a story is correct or not. Please be careful there, only use it for uploading. So what exactly does the university do with all of these instances? I've given you a whole host of things to think about here. In online exams, lecturers are normally the first people to identify when a student is not acting with academic integrity. They're going to be alerted either through their own eyes or through special plagiarism detection software like Turnitin, or through proctoring software like the Invigilator app. And in these cases, the lecturer is going to just review these flagged files to double check that there really is an instance of academic dishonesty happening. And if they do, they also have to judge, how severe is it? Is it the whole file? Is it the whole exam? Is it just a small little instance? So they will need to judge. So it's not all done automatically. We bring humans into it to make sure that you are not unfairly put through any processes like a disciplinary process. However, being dishonest in an exam is extremely serious. It's a severe transgression. So I just want you to watch this video which summarizes what will happen should a student be found of plagiarizing or cheating in an exam. If your conduct in an exam does not uphold our student values at Unisa, the following process will unfold. Your lecturer will allocate a 0 mark to your script and report the matter to the relevant student disciplinary office within the college. When your lecturer reports your case, they put together an evidence file. This is everything that shows why they believe you have acted in a dishonest manner. Other academics will review the evidence and will decide if there is enough to substantiate the allegation. If they feel there is enough evidence, the case will be sent to the registrar's student disciplinary office for official disciplinary action and a charge will be made against you. You will receive a letter informing you that you have been flagged for cheating or plagiarism, and that, unless you decide to contest the charge, you will receive this warning letter and a 0 for the exam or portfolio. If you decide not to contest the charge, the matter is then closed, as long as you are not found guilty of the same charge within the specified period of time. Should you decide to contest the charge, you will be called to a student disciplinary hearing. This is a committee made up of academics from all the colleges that hears all of the evidence and decides on the probability of the evidence whether you are guilty of having transgressed the student disciplinary code. You have the opportunity to see the evidence against you and to present your own evidence. The committee, having looked at all the evidence, then decides on whether you are likely guilty, and if you are guilty, what sanction you will receive. If you are unhappy with the outcome, you may take your case to the Student Disciplinary Appeals Committee. This committee is made up of other academics represented by each college. You will have the opportunity to present your case, and all of the evidence will again be considered. The committee then deliberates and makes a decision, and this decision is final. So what can actually happen if you're found to have acted unethically in the exam? Your lecturer might give you a 0 for your portfolio or exam, and this means that you will fail the module. It also means that you do not qualify for a supplementary because you do not have the necessary sub-minimum to qualify for the exam. Next up, you can receive a written warning, and this warning can include a possible suspension from the university if you're found guilty of another offence during the same time. Written warnings are not to be dismissed. They appear on your certificate of conduct, and that's part of your academic record. In other words, if you have to send a possible employer or another university your academic record, they're going to be informed of this unethical conduct on your behalf. Another consequence is a student having their module registration cancelled, and they're going to forfeit any money that they've paid for it. And you might also be stopped from registering for a period of time. It can be anything from 1 semester to 10 years. Very serious offences can even lead to a lifetime ban, which means you're never going to be able to complete your degree. In very serious cases, the university might decide to cancel all of the credits you've accumulated for your degree. Or if you've already been awarded the degree, they might decide to revoke it. Then you have some degrees that are linked to professional councils. And these professional councils have their own ethics codes. And if you're found guilty at the university, they might not register you with the council, or they might remove you from that professional council, like with the accountants. And lastly, the most severe instance is when universities work with the South African Police Force to institute criminal charges. It will happen with exam syndicates and so on. And if you're found guilty in the court of law, you not only have our own academic record, but a criminal record. So we've shared a lot of scary do's and don'ts with you up until now, and you might be feeling overwhelmed. You might be asking yourself, how do I make sure I don't act with dishonesty by accident? Because it can happen. So here's some guidelines I'd like you to just try. Act ethically. Be an ethical person in all your interactions and remember those 6 values of academic integrity: honesty, trust, respect, responsibility, fairness, and courage. Make those the values that you live by. If you're faced with any situation, ask yourself whether your action is good and whether your action might not only hurt yourself, but cause that domino effect on your friends and your university. Study something that you love and that's meaningful to you. No one's making you study. There's no law, and you're an adult. You can decide for yourself what it is you want to study. Don't let friends or family pressure you. Make sure that the degree you're studying is something that you're really interested in. If you love what you're studying, you will feel more connected to it and less likely to be tempted to cheat. So make those choices meaningfully. Plan your time properly so that you have enough time to study. One of the biggest reasons that students give after being caught cheating is that they just didn't have enough time to complete their work or study. So properly planning your studies and making sure to stick to a schedule will mean that you have enough time. Also be careful not to register for too many modules at once. Remember, each 12 credit module requires 120 hours of work from you. Practice the skills that you need. Students may feel panicked because they don't have the necessary skills to do well at university. That's what they think. Really, this might be computer or online skills and writing and originality skills, or even referencing and paraphrasing skills. Rather practice these skills and you will acquire them. Why not join that academic integrity Mooc that I told you about earlier, that UOL 018? The more you practice something, the better you're going to be at it. And almost everything you learn at university comes down to developing your skill sets. So it's important that you take part in your mock exams as well, so that you don't feel overwhelmed when you set your first exam. And also test out the Invigilator app, for example. Just reduce your anxiety by practicing. Lastly, you can ask for assistance if you're unsure about the process, technology or rule. You can contact your lecturer and they can explain to you exactly what you need to be looking for. There's one last action that you can take to protect your degree, and I know it can be hard, but courageousness is a huge part of academic integrity. You might feel conflicted if you come across those fellow students of yours that are acting dishonestly, but they're putting all your hard work and your degree, along with the work and the qualifications of all past, current, and future students at risk. As more and more of you choose to uphold those values of academic integrity, it's going to become harder for others to cheat in the future. So choosing academic integrity will lock in place the value of the Unisa students as qualified and knowledgeable and skilled employees and business owners. And it's going to give you a sense of pride in your degree and your qualification. So if you're prepared and courageous enough to report these instances of academic dishonesty, you can contact your lecturer, or you can go directly to the whistleblower hotline to be anonymous. So you can either use the toll-free number 0800 005 311. You can email hotline@kpmg.co.za, or you can go to our website www.thornhill.co.za/KPMG Ethics Line Report. This will allow you to be anonymous in your reporting. It is not handled by Unisa, but by KPMG, so you can ensure your anonymity. So in the end, thank you so much for joining my webinar on academic integrity. I'm now going to hand back to my colleague to continue with the program, and I'll be joining in with the Q&A later to answer any other questions you might have. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Jessica, for unpacking quite nicely what academic integrity means at Unisa. But more specifically, I think you've contextualized it quite nicely for our students on some of the challenges that the students experience, some of the pitfalls, and how the students can actually avoid some of those issues. I've seen some very interesting questions coming up on the chat, so I'm going to give you some time to reflect on that, Jessica, and ponder on those questions as we later engage after Puntia's session on those questions, so it gives you some time. But there's some interesting questions, I think, on open book exams, what's classified as plagiarism, Turnitin to yeah, so it's a variety of questions, Jessica. So you've got you can just look at that while we come back. At this time, ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to invite Puntius Nguna. Puntius is actually from the Unisa Advocacy and Resource Center for Students with Disabilities, which many of you know as Oxford. And Puntius has worked on several platforms with us, and he really is a very motivational speaker, but also unpacks quite nicely the student space and what provisions does Unisa make for students that are differently enabled. As I said, I've sat with him at personally in different presentations, and also heard of his personal story and how he transitioned to this space as well. And it's been a remarkable journey, and that is why it's my honor today to introduce Puntius as one of our speakers today. Puntius, welcome to the platform, and thank you once again for making the time to come and discuss these elements with our students. I now hand over to you, Puntius, so thank you very much, Puntius.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. And happy Deaf Awareness Month to everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, the purpose of this unit is to give more information on reasonable accommodation and online examination for students with disabilities. Ladies and gentlemen, you'll agree with me that COVID exposed the need for students with disabilities to have access to technology in order to write their online examinations. This will also empower students with special needs with the following, including the definition of disability, which reads as follows. Persons with disabilities include those who have long-term physical, mental, intellectual, or sensory impairments, which in interaction with various barriers may hinder their full and effective participation in society on an equal basis with others. To understand and appreciate the reasons for disclosing disability. Understand the requirements for special examination arrangements. Provide guidelines on processes to request reasonable accommodation relevant to your disability. Because as Unisa, we provide services based on your individual needs. We don't have the one-size-fits-all approach. We are fully aware that students may present a similar disability, but their needs will differ. To understand and enjoy the enabling environment that will promote the full participation and equalization of opportunities for persons with special needs. Allow all students who have diverse range of learning needs to proceed with learning, teaching, and online assessment through a common curricular framework. Strengthen the mechanisms and capacities that will facilitate the integration of students with disabilities. Identify and eliminate barriers to online learning and assessment. Maximize the participation of students with disabilities in the teaching and learning process. And also that students with disabilities are not inferior to non-disabled students. We are all equal, irrespective of our disability. Acknowledging diversity by recognizing that students with disabilities or students with special needs have different but equally valued learning needs. Students to be aware of the flexibility within the curriculum to respond to the diverse needs of students with disabilities, which allow a student to progress at his or her own pace and style, and permit to use of multidimensional assessment methods. Knowledge on the online application process of bursaries to cover tuition fees, prescribed books, and assistive devices, and human support for students with disabilities. In order for students to receive this kind of services, UXWIT encourage all students with disabilities not to conceal their disability. Because while we respect students' rights to disclose or not to disclose their disability, students who does not disclose their disabilities may not receive or demand reasonable accommodation from the university, because the university will not be aware of your individual needs. Ladies and gentlemen, I must emphasize that disability can be acquired by anyone, anytime. Therefore, it is important that we take disabilities as everyone's responsibility. It could be that in your family, community, or in your study group, you have a person with a disability. Let's treat them with respect and dignity. And in addition to that, disabilities are not always visible. We have invisible disabilities. Just to mention a few: psychosocial and learning disabilities like dyslexia. Students who acquire disabilities during their studies are encouraged to contact UXWIT for assistance with the different stages of accepting their disability and the applicable reasonable accommodation. Colleagues, please know that I acquired my disability 22 years ago. As I'm talking to you, I'm T10 and T12 paraplegic and have gone through all the stages of accepting disability, which include denial, denying yourself being a person with a disability, the rejection, stigma, etc. It is therefore important to contact us so that we can assist you accordingly in order to live a meaningful life with a disability. And kindly know that the university may not discriminate against any students with a disability. By disclosing a disability during the application phase, it increases your chances of placement by the university. Please note that the university does not put students with disabilities on a waiting list. If you qualify for a particular qualification that you applied for, you are immediately given an offer. It is therefore important that you disclose in order to receive this service. Students are also assisted with the application for the bursary for students with disabilities, which caters for tuition fees, prescribed books, and assistive devices. And these assistive devices could make your studies easy and enjoyable, as it will enable you to write your online assessment without any challenge. The bursary has an assistive device allocation of 50,000 rands for the duration of your qualification, which means you can buy your assistive device up to 50,000 rands. Maybe in your first year, you can use 20,000 rands or 10,000 rands, depending on your individual needs. Or if needs be, you can apply for the 50,000 rands. The allocation for human support is 50,000 rands for the academic year 2021. One may ask, what is that? What is human support? As the university, we are aware that students with disabilities, from time to time, they need assistance from persons without disabilities. Just to give an example, if a student is quadriplegic, the student may need somebody to assist in checking or emptying their urine sheet. Therefore, this kind of allocation can be used for that. Again, you find that a student who's blind may need assistance from other people. The bursary also has an allocation for maintenance of the assistive devices. And colleagues, you will also remember that deaf students, they need sign language interpretation services from time to time. The human support can also be used to pay for sign language interpreters. And students can also receive a 2,000 rands once-off payment for medical assessment, because in order to receive all the services that I've mentioned, we need a confirmation of your disability. Therefore, this money can be used to consult and obtain the required documents. Application form is available for the bursary, and then that will be form part of the Mooc, which will be published. In terms of registration, students who complete special assistance form at the point of registration are able to receive study material in accessible formats relevant to their disability. E.g., a student who's blind who will prefer Braille can receive Braille material. Partial sighted student can receive large print, or a blind student who acquired the disability late in life. They may also request audio material or electronic material, which is screen reader user friendly. And also the application for special assistance is also available in the Mooc. At the point of registration, students with print disabilities can also request prescribed books in electronic format to study using their laptop with screen readers or text magnification software, including students with learning disabilities, by completing the form. Students with print disabilities may also request electronic recommended material from our library by sending an email to libdisability@unisa.ac.za. Special examination arrangements. In this section, we will explain the process on how to apply for special examination arrangements for your online assessments. Ladies and gentlemen, special exam arrangement is not automatic. As I mentioned earlier, that you may present, two students may present a similar disability, but their needs will differ. As a result, it is important that you apply for these arrangements. Who qualify for special examination arrangements? students with disability or special needs, or those with medical conditions. As you may be aware that some medical conditions will require reasonable accommodation when you write your online assessment. As a result, it is important that you disclose to the university in order to be assisted. To apply for the special examination arrangements, you will have to complete the form. You can either take the form to your medical practitioner or to the organization of and for persons with disabilities to complete and stamp it and return it back to the university. Students can apply for extra time, which will be relevant to their disability. Like I said earlier, the extra time will depend on your individual needs, as per the doctor's motivation. The university is mindful of students who require alternative assessment. Therefore, the university is able to provide alternative assessment to students with disabilities who provided the necessary documentation. One may ask, does Unisa provide oral examination to students with disabilities? Because we are now in COVID-19, the answer is yes. Qualifying students will receive this. Just to give an example, why I'm saying qualifying students. We have students who are deaf, who may not in any way benefit from oral examinations. And we have students with physical disabilities who does not qualify for this. Like, for example, a person who's paraplegic. The person can type and they can see. Therefore, this doesn't apply to them. Do I apply every year for special examination arrangements? The answer is no, because we are aware that getting medical certificate is costly. Therefore, we don't want to create barriers for our students. What you need to do is only to confirm once a year if your needs did not change. And one may ask, what happened should my disability deteriorate? If your disability deteriorate, you should reapply for special examination arrangements. Let me give you an example on what do I mean that if your disability changes. For instance, today I'm paraplegic. Should it happen that next year I find myself as a quadriplegic student, my needs will differ. I will therefore have to inform the university that my needs are now different. Therefore, the university will accommodate me as per my needs. Another example, as a student today, you may be partially sighted, only to find that in the next semester or the following year, you become blind. Therefore, your needs will be completely different. One may ask, what do I do if my screen reader is unable to read examination question papers? Please contact the lecturer and CC exam disabled at unisa.ac.za and ACSUIT at unisa.ac.za to ensure that we'll facilitate for you to have an accessible question paper. Because we're aware that certain students are unable to open certain formats of question papers. We are always there to provide the support required. One may ask, what happens if I don't have the assistive device, for example, a screen reader or a laptop with text magnification software? Send request for an assistive device to us You can send it direct to me, nkunapj@unisa.ac.za. We'll therefore contact you and assist accordingly. What do I do if I fall sick on the exam date? It's important that you apply for AgroTax. And ladies and gentlemen, please be ethical in whatever you do, because whatever you do defines you. What do I do? Should I acquire a disability before exam? It's important that you inform us so that we can advise you on how to best approach your studies. Because at times you may find that the disability that you've acquired can still allow you to continue with your studies in an alternative format or assessment. Therefore, colleagues from Unisa, if they're not aware of your disability, they may not be in a position to assist you. Therefore, it's your responsibility as a person with a disability to inform the university. Students, they have rights and responsibilities. One may ask, after applying for special examination arrangements, how do I know that my application is successful or not? The DSAA, which is the examination section, will send you a confirmation letter confirming that this kind of special examination arrangements will be applicable to you in this particular exam period. If you have any queries regarding that, you are provided with contact details to contact the relevant staff member who will assist you. Ladies and gentlemen, for those of you who will be using access technology for the first time to write their online assessment, it is important that you practice with your access technology to open documents, e.g. PDF documents, to see on how to do it. And should there be a need from a student for assignment feedback to be made accessible in a different format, like it could be braille, audio, etc., please let us know so that we can make it available to you. And it must be noted that due to COVID-19, students with disabilities are not able to write exams in braille or large print. And ladies and gentlemen, we are aware that there's an email or emails that have been sent out to students regarding the Invigilator app. If you have a disability, please disclose your disability and submit a medical certificate so that you can be assisted accordingly. We are quite aware that, for example, students who are blind may not be able to take pictures of their IDs or selfies when requested to do so. And again, we are aware that some students may be required to take a break during their exams because of their disabilities. For instance, if a student is paraplegic, they have to empty their blood hourly. Therefore, they'll have to move to the ablution facilities. Therefore, if you did not disclose your disability, the app may flag you as a person who's cheating by moving up and down. And again, we are aware that persons with disabilities may need assistance from time to time. Like, for example, if a student is complete quadriplegic, the student may need somebody to assist him when they are writing exams. But then if you don't disclose to the university, you'll be flagged as a student who's cheating. Therefore, it is important that you always inform the university on any changes that happens to you. Colleagues, it is important that you make contacts with other students with disabilities to advise you on how to use access technology, especially if you are new in the world of disability, or you've just received a new assistive device. The university, because it believes in the nothing about us without us, which is an international slogan for persons with disabilities, has established regional forums for students with disabilities and an association for students with disabilities. Ladies and gentlemen, these structures advise the university on matters that affect students with disabilities. It is therefore to make contact with the structures and become active so that your rights are always protected. As mentioned earlier, students may apply for special examination arrangements by requesting their medical practitioners to complete the document. It is important that as we will finish this session today, that students with disabilities or those with special needs have an understanding on how to manage the extra time allocation for their online exams, because when students with disabilities apply for special examination arrangements, they also receive extra time. It is important that when you start your exams, make sure that you monitor the time allocated to you. Don't exceed the time. Colleagues, I must emphasize that the development of this lesson is necessitated by the higher education in response to COVID-19 pandemic regulations to support students with disabilities. As you may be aware, that we have the white paper on the rights of persons with disabilities and the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities to ensure that students with disabilities are treated with respect and dignity that they deserve. After completing this lesson on the Mooc, students should be able to understand the requirements for the special examination arrangements, because in the past we had students without disabilities who tried to cheat the system, who attempted to apply for these arrangements. It is therefore necessary that whenever you apply, the form is completed by your medical practitioner or the association for persons with disabilities. By so doing, ladies and gentlemen, we are not taking you back to the medical model, but just to ensure that we accommodate all students as an adult institution. Students should be able to request study material in alternative formats, which is relevant to them. Recognizing that students with disabilities have different but equally valued learning needs, must be well prepared for your first online examination using access technology. Students with disabilities must be able to apply for financial assistance to cater for their tuition fees, prescribed books, and assistive devices. Ladies and gentlemen, assistive devices are not only restricted to laptops. It can be a motorized wheelchair for students with who are quadriplegic. It can be a manual wheelchair for paraplegics and those who are amputated, digital voice recorders, hearing aids, as mentioned earlier, payment for sign language interpreters and human support. By so saying, I'd like to encourage you to apply for assistive devices that are relevant to your disability. Ladies and gentlemen, I thought I should bring the following questions to you, then that you can ask yourself whether you are familiar with the kind of assistive device or access technology that we'll be using for your exams. Whether you feel overwhelmed thinking that you may not complete your first online examination due to your disability. Or do you fear that you may not complete your examinations due to load shedding, as per my colleague who mentioned earlier? Or do you know how to apply for agro-tests should you experience technical problems or load shedding? And the final question is, did you apply for special examination arrangements? Ladies and gentlemen, the Advocacy and Resource Center, known as ACSUIT, a unit within the Department of Student Affairs, was established to provide for the needs of students with special needs and disability. Please do not hesitate to contact us for assistance on the following email address: acsuit@unisa.ac.za. One may ask, why am I reading out the email address? It's because we are aware that some students may not be able to see what is projected. In conclusion, I'd like to leave you with this quote by Thomas Edison. Our greatest weakness lies in giving up. The most certain way to succeed is always to try just one more time. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Pinterest, for that. More specifically, unpacking exactly what that means for us at institutions such as Unisa, and also what provisions we make for students in the upcoming online examination. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, the theme for the session is on understanding the core skills that are needed for students in an online assessment environment. And what Pinterest has actually showed us is the inclusive nature that we really need to think about in terms of how we approach our assessments. We now have a few minutes, and what I would like to do is invite our panelists, Jessica and Pinterest, to the floor. And we're going to pose some of the questions that are on the chat, but I see majority of the questions have been answered by the colleagues in the background. So thank you very much, colleagues, for your proactive engagement with those questions. But I thought for the sake of conversation, Jessica and Pinterest, if we might have addressed some of these issues so that we also familiarize ourselves, because I see there's some overlapping issues, but also some critical skills that might be needed. Jessica, from your side, let me bring you first to the floor. Open book exams. Everybody is talking about open book exams, right? And I see, firstly, what exactly do we mean by open book exams at Unisa?
Am I live? Well, with an open book exam, it simply means that you can independently access other sources like journal articles, textbooks, websites. That's an independent function. Now, an open book exam isn't a carte blanche to contact others, ask them what their feelings are. You're supposed to be doing this independently. So there's no group work in an open book exam unless your lecturer has specified otherwise. In an open book exam, don't fall into the trap of thinking because it's open book, you can look up the answers in the middle of the exam. You will run out of time. You need to prepare for an open book exam just as you would prepare for a closed book exam. The only benefit to the open book exam is that you might be asked, a question might ask you to do a quick little bit of research, or you can use your book to help catalyze that spark in your brain. You need to have that existing knowledge there already. Otherwise, you're going to waste valuable, precious time looking for the answers, and you won't finish. And don't forget to quote, to reference your source.
Thanks, Jessica. Actually, I'm coming to that point now. Jessica, referencing. We know a lot of the, when we talk about open book exams, we talk about referencing, and that also borders on plagiarism. Why is it important for students to reference in an open book exam?
Well, as we've already discussed, if you don't reference, you are basically committing a form of theft. You're taking someone else's ideas. Now, it's kind of like if you create an invention or a new idea or way of doing things, and someone comes along and steals it. Now, that's all your hard work that's being taken away, and someone else is getting all the credit. That's plagiarism. So instead of an invention, you're taking someone else's ideas and something they've worked hard on researching and sourcing and writing in their own words, and they're attributing the sources of those ideas, and you're just passing it off as your own. Now, don't forget, when you're in university, and especially early year students, first to third year, it's very unlikely that you have reached the academic level to be able to vigorously and academically debate any issue. So by not providing a source, you're already showing your lecturer that you are effectively stealing someone else's ideas and trying to claim their space. So that's why it's so important to always reference your sources. Now, you can do this as part of preparing for your exam. You already know what textbook you are going to be consulting, so you can go ahead and prepare the full reference and the in-text reference for that textbook. What I would advise you to do is the Unisa library has its LibGuides. Its library guides. So go to the Unisa library, and each college and even department has its own library guides, and they will often give you their referencing approaches. So guides on how to reference. Business management and the College of Economic and Management Sciences, for example, prefer to use the Harvard referencing system. Other institutions might prefer the APA style. So just go double check that. You can check with your lecturer as well. But yes, the library will have guides on how to do all of these referencing techniques, so you can prepare them in advance.
Thank you very much for that, Jessica, and also for the idea of preparing this in advance. I think being proactive with these, especially if you know it, is quite important. Panchis, if I may bring you in at this time, Panchis, there's a question, and I know you've raised this already as part of your presentation, but I thought responding this would actually help the students to recapture this as well. It reads, I am a quadriplegic and have a scribbler writing with me. We must use the Invigilator app while writing, and it will pick up me speaking to the scribbler. Will I be discriminated and get 0%?
Thanks for the question. As Unisa, we are sensitive towards the needs of students with disabilities. Therefore, as a student who's quadriplegic, we are advised to submit a medical certificate confirming the nature of your disability to the university so that you can be exempted from the Invigilator app. Just to add on that one, we are also aware that as a person who's quadriplegic, from time to time, you may need to use the ablution facilities. Therefore, if you don't disclose, you may be disadvantaged. But if you disclose, we'll make sure that you receive a reasonable accommodation. Thank you.
Thank you, Panchis. So the idea there is for the students to actually disclose this so that we can make those provisional arrangements. Thanks, Panchis. Jessica, if I may bring you in, one of the questions that comes out would, Turnitin, plagiarism. In terms of Turnitin, is there any similarity index that we foreground as an institution that we can say is safe as an academic?
Yes, it will depend on what level you're writing at, NQF level. So if you're a first year student versus a postgraduate student, you will generally have different levels of acceptable similarity index on Turnitin. So at a 4th year level, for example, we would put it at about 15% maximum. Whereas a 3rd year or even 2nd year, most of you are consulting the same textbook. So we're going to see a higher similarity index as a result. You can therefore, the similarity index, the Turnitin reports are just sort of a flagging system for us. So we go in and then we check. The human eye comes in, so we're going to see, oh, you are referencing your source, so even though it's flagging, it's fine. That doesn't give you an excuse to cut and paste. A lot of students have the digital textbooks open or the websites, and they will quickly copy and paste entire sections from the website or from the textbook into their answer. And then they'll quickly put maybe a reference there at the end. That's still not acceptable.
Right.
It's only acceptable practice to do word for word for very small quotations. And when you do direct quotations, you have to put them in inverted commas. And it's most often used with, say, where you're doing a definition or you're clarifying a concept. So you might say, according to Ping and Mayer, bracket 2019, and then you can do page number, close bracket. The integration responsiveness framework is da 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 da, and you can put that in inverted commas. But it's not acceptable to cut and paste entire sections from another text, because what work are you doing in that case? You are then expecting the marker to mark the work or the website or the textbook by doing that. We're not then not marking your efforts. So you really do need to phrase things in your own words, which is going to drop down that similarity index in the end.
Thank you very much for that, Jessica. I think that also borders very much on understanding what paraphrasing means. And I think here, ladies and gentlemen, as Jessica mentioned earlier as well, there's a interesting Mooc on academic integrity on the Mooc space. And remember, when you get to the Mooc space, you first need to log onto the site, you create an account, right? So first you create an account, and creating an account means you insert your own username, your own password, your details. Once you finish create your account, you then go on to membership, look for joinable sites. You will find the course URL under academic integrity. You then join the course and you have access to it. So you can't just click on the link. Make sure you create an account first, join the course, then you have full access to it. And that's the exact same thing that you'll use for accessing the SS4IRR Mooc on online skills for assessments as well. Pinchas, if I might bring you in now, Pinchas, to expand some of these conversations. I know you mentioned it earlier, Pinchas, alternative assessments. We didn't actually tell the students, but what type of alternative assessments are we making available to students at Unisa?
Thank you so much for the question. In terms of alternative assessment, it depends on the individual needs of that particular student. Like for instance, the question that was raised earlier by the student who's quadriplegic. One, the student will need a scriber when writing exams, and the university must be aware of that arrangement. And again, you may find other students who may be quadriplegic who will prefer to do their exams orally through Teams. These are some of the arrangements that are available. And I will advise students, if they have a need which is relevant to their disability, to make contact with us so that we can also advise them whether the kind of assessment that they are proposing are relevant to them or whether they will disadvantage them. Because we've been in the system for quite a long time, we're aware of the advantages and disadvantages of the assessment. And adding to that, then in terms of the Invigilator app, can not only disadvantage students who are quadriplegic, other students with different disabilities may also be disadvantaged. Like, for example, if a student is using a screen reader to do their online exams. The screen reader will be reading everything that the student is doing. Therefore, that may be flagged as cheating if the student did not disclose to us that they are using this particular access technology. And again, persons who maybe, for example, who are paraplegic using urine sheet. Urine sheet is a bag that is attached to the leg of the person. Because the person cannot feel their legs, from time to time they must lower their hand to feel whether the urine sheet is full or not. Therefore, by so doing, when moving up and down, that also may affect the student if they don't disclose. We are also aware that certain students with spinal cord injuries may experience spasms when writing exams. That time, they may need somebody or a family member to help them to calm down the spasms. It is therefore important that students always disclose their disability. We are also mindful of the Protection of Personal Information Act. The information that we'll receive from students will be kept confidential and will only be used to accommodate the student. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Pontius. I see we've come to the end of the questions. I see there's a lot of questions relating to the exam timetable, which dates, how much of time, etc. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is all available on your exam timetable. And I see the colleagues also pasted some feedback on this as well. So I think we've covered majority of the questions. So thank you very much to the two colleagues, Jessica and Pontius, for unpacking this so nicely for us, but also in a very practical way that you've unpacked it. Thank you very much for that. Ladies and gentlemen, from my side, I just want to quickly round up. So please remember that tomorrow, as I mentioned earlier, we have instated what we call the student blast sessions. Now, the student blast sessions are a new phenomenon that we've got. While we've been working with students for the past year and a half, we've noticed that students have approached the exam time, but they still have some questions relating to the technical aspects, and that actually stresses out many students. So during these blast sessions, we've allocated 5 groups. So the 5 groups run parallel to each other, and the idea that if you cannot get space in one group, you simply log on to the next link. And these 5 groups will run from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. You then have the freedom to log onto the site, pose your questions to the group who will be working behind the scenes, whether it's a technical element that you need, whether, for example, what is a proctoring app, how do you upload the proctoring app, or how do you access the My Exam platform, or how would you download an exam paper. Those are technical questions that are critical for you as you start engaging with the exams. And we've created a space that you get 100% the knowledge that you need, as well as the skills, so that you don't stress out during the exams. So please feel free to join the sessions tomorrow, the student blast sessions. These are done in collaboration with the regions and the ADOV team that will be joining certain of these sessions. And if we have the additional time, we will obviously answer some of your other questions relating to the assessments, core skills, etc. that might pop up. From my side, thank you very much for the week, for joining us. As I said, remember tomorrow the blast sessions. Next week, please catch up with us on the evening sessions to join as a refresher as well if you want to. Remember, if you missed out any of these valuable sessions, YouTube is the channel that you go to. Log on to YouTube, search for Academic Development Open Virtual Hub, and you'll find the recordings of all our sessions on the YouTube channel. So, for example, today's session will be uploaded by this evening, and then you can then access it to get a refresher as well. On behalf of my side, I'd just like to say quickly thank you very much to the ADOV team that have been working in the background, our producer, as always, excellent David, and the team that has been answering all the questions, the SRU team, the ADOV team. Thank you very much for your time and effort. And from our side, ladies and gentlemen, we wish you all the best as you prepare for the examination. I know it's stressful with many of you writing up to 10 modules, so please prepare. Remember what some of the colleagues have also said throughout, time management is critical. Manage your time, and you'll be able to handle the stress of the upcoming examinations. But please remember, do pop in tomorrow in our student blast sessions. We look forward to seeing you and also hearing from you how these sessions are actually unfolding and whether you're benefiting from it. So from my side and the team side, we wish you all well. Thank you and have a blessed rest of the day. Thank you very much.